and CEO of his company. I'm sorry Robin, he's just not big on letting those around him into his world so to speak. I wish I knew more but I don't. Sadly, she looks down and wonders why her mom put up with so much crap from her father but understands what she's saying so she's going to drop it. At least for now. So, how have you been? What's going on with your life? The last time we spoke you said you got a new job, so what's going on with you? Robin wanted to change the subject because there was not much else she needs to say regarding her father, so she drops that conversation and changes the subject so she can let her mind drift off of the other thing she was hoping would happen today. The job is good, it's something I can do and it pays really well. I've moved into a new place, after Katie officially moved out, and I also have been seeing someone. Robin's face changes from sadness and disappointment to happy and delighted. Oh, wow, that's great. Who's the guy? She asks, wanting to know more about the guy her mother's seeing because she does look happy, and when she mentioned it she instantly lit up, so she is obviously happy with this guy. His name is Roger. I met him when I was at my job. He came in as a client and we talked, and then he asked me out after I told him that I was single. He's a really nice guy, definitely the opposite of your father. He's Russian Canadian, and 2 years older than me. But, he's a great guy and we've been seeing each other for a year now. Robin's really happy for her. Her mother has been single for a long time, so it's nice to know that she isn't alone and that this guy she's with is good for her and makes her happy. That's something her father never did or was. I am really happy for you, Mom. She says, pulling her into a hug, smiling, glad to see that her mother's happy for once and has a new and better life after being single since her parents' divorce. As they talked, Barney and his mom sat in the living room talking as well and catching up about things that has been happening in both lives recently. So, you remember Sam, right? Loretta asks, wanting to know if Barney remembers James' father, who she's been recently talking to and seeing for a few months now. Yes, James' father. What about him? He asks, wondering why she brought him up, although Barney does get along with Sam after getting to know him more recently. Well, we're currently kind of dating. She says, fishing a little to see what Barney will say or do about this new information. Oh. He's a little taken aback by this. He had no idea that his mom and Sam were even talking, but it's a little weird for him considering she hasn't seen him in decades. Barney, I know this news is surprising, but it's a good thing because after James started to get to know him we started to talk again. After all these years we both realized that we still have something there between us, so we decided to give our relationship another shot. We've been dating since last November. In all that time she never once mentioned that she was seeing Sam, let alone talking to him again. It's really odd for him to not know what's going on in his mom's life. That time last year was hell for Barney, but in the last 9 months, now 10 months, he feels like his life is completed, and now that he has Robin and is about to marry her soon and their son, there's nothing else in his life he could possibly hope for. Sometimes he wishes his parents would have gotten back together when they were older and more wiser, but since he had his son there isn't anything more he needs in his life. Back when he was younger he wished that things would be different, but that's not how life works, and that's something he now understands. So he's happy for his mom because she looks happy, and that's all that matters because he knows what happiness feels like. So he'll be supportive because it took his mom decades to really have a relationship with anyone, so he's going to give her and Sam his blessing because that's all that matters right now. Both of them are happy, and Barney has never been as happy as he is now. Being with Robin was something he thought would never be possible, but by luck she did still love him and picked him, and now they have a beautiful son, and that's all he could wish for. It took another couple of minutes to let this news sink in, but then he smiles and says, "I'm happy for you, Mom." Keeping his smile on his face as his mom hugs him, thanking him for his support. Soon after, Robin and Genevieve re-enter the living room and they all sit down and have dinner together after their talks, and both Robin and Barney have the closure they need to move forward in their life together because they will soon be getting married, and both are over the moon about that next milestone in their lives. Thanks for coming today. We're grateful to have you here, and Sam is going to have both of his grandmas in his life, and that's a great thing because our family is complete. Barney says, saying a little toast before they start eating. The four soon eat and slowly go into a light-hearted conversation which included telling the mothers about their upcoming wedding and Genevieve's stay at the fortress for the rest of the weekend. It was a nice dinner and afternoon for everyone. Barney and Robin couldn't be more happier than they are right now, and they can't wait to get married. A few days after Robin's mother left, things had gone back to normal for Barney and Robin. Robin had taken the 6-month leave from work, which was something she wasn't sure about doing, but because she had major surgery from giving birth she decided it was best to take the time off to recover and stay home with Sam. Barney, however, took the rest of the month off work to help Robin take care of Sam, but on this day he had gotten a call early this morning that there was an emergency that was urgent that he had to take care of, so at last minute he had to go into the office for a couple of hours, leaving Robin alone with the baby. But, on this day neither expected to have happen in the next hour happen, which changes things for Robin in a way that will give her closure on the one last thing in her life that needs closure. Robin had been in Sam's room for the last hour feeding him. She had just put him down for a nap and was going back to the living room when she hears knocking at her front door. The person knocking had been pounding on the door at this moment and she wondered who it could possibly be. It is 1 in the afternoon, with Barney gone and taking care of Sam alone. She didn't think she would get anyone coming to the apartment on this day, but the knocking kept going and it didn't stop. "Who is it?" she asks, annoyed at all the pounding on the door. "It's your father," rolling her eyes and sighing. She thinks aloud, "Geez, he never changes." Then goes to answer the door. "Dad. What are you doing here?" Her patience wearing thin and she didn't want anything disturbing Sam from his afternoon nap, so she was very annoyed at her father's persistent knocking. "I came to see my grandson," he says. Robin's annoyed tone went away after this and she put on the best smile she could muster and welcomed her father into her home. "He's sleeping right now, but you can stay until he wakes up," Robin suggests, hoping that after all this time her father would accept her kind gesture. She really wasn't expecting to ever see her father after her conversation with her mother, but it is nice of him to show up even if it is unexpected. "Oh, okay. I wanted to give you this, for my grandson," Robin Sr. says, handing Robin a stuffed bear. "Oh, that's really nice of you, thank you. Sam will love it." Robin smiles, this time genuinely, as she gestures for her father to sit down on the couch. "So, how did you know about Sam and why haven't you called me to congratulate me on having the baby?" She hadn't seen her father for 4 years and hasn't spoken to him in 3, so it's weird that he just showed up unannounced without letting her know that he's stopping by. "Barney. He called me twice in the last 3 weeks, once to tell me that you were pregnant and the other time to yell at me for not being there for you. And then your mother called me the other day, told me she stayed with you here and visited with you and Sam, and then she yelled at me for being distant and not caring about your life. So, you can say I was yelled at to come see you." She had no idea that Barney called him. She didn't know he even knew his number, but she didn't think it was anything suspicious, so she looked past it, at least for now anyway. "Oh. So, how are you? What's going on in your life?" Robin asks, wanting to know what's going on in her father's life all these years and since moving to New York. "Well, I moved to New York. I'm CEO of my company now, and I had met someone. I've been seeing her for a year now." This is why Robin never knows what's going on in her father's life. He never talks to her, which is probably why Barney yelled at him. "Oh, who did you meet?" she asks, wanting to know more about who her father is seeing that she hasn't known about till now. "Her name is Carol, she's an Zumba instructor. I met her a year ago online at Starbucks. We're actually getting married." Shocked, Robin was taken aback by this shocking news. Her father never put relationships before himself or his work, so she wonders how he let this woman control him, enough so that he's actually putting someone else before himself. "Wow, she sounds lovely. You could have told me. After all, you have been living here for 2 years and never cared enough about me and my life to share with me the details of your life." But this Carol woman sounds lovely. She's disappointed that they don't talk. If they did, both would have known sooner that she was having a baby and was getting married, and he is seeing someone and is apparently getting married as well, which kind of makes her mad and a little sad not knowing what her father's life is like. After another hour talking, her father only stayed for another 10 minutes before announcing that he had to get back to work, that he's on his lunch hour. So, when he left, Robin began to wonder exactly how Barney contacted him, apparently twice. When Barney came home 2 hours later, she decided to ask him about calling her father. "Robin, I'm home," he announced, shouting through the living room. "I'm in Sam's room," she answered back. Barney smiles to himself and puts his suit jacket over the arm of the couch, then walks back to Sam's room. Hey, sorry I had to leave so suddenly, but Bilson was throwing a hissy fit, so I had to go and fix the thing he wanted me and only me to fix on short notice. He says, walking up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. So, how was your day? He asks. She then turns around, still in the embrace of her fiancé. She still doesn't get tired of saying or thinking that Barney Stinson is her fiancé. They are getting married in just 10 months from now and both are extremely happy and ready to make it official. You would never guess who stopped by today. She says after giving him a quick kiss. Hello. Who? He wants to know. He wonders who would stop by on a Friday afternoon. Everyone he knew would be working or with family, so he doesn't know who it could be that came by on this day. My father. Oh, he thought, not expecting that answer. Her father came by. He never would have guessed that in a million years. Oh, that's unexpected. He said, shocked, not knowing what to say to this sudden news. Yeah, he came by earlier to see Sam. He was asleep, so they couldn't really meet, at least not properly, so he just saw him in the crib as he slept, but he gave us this. She went over to where she had put the stuffed bear that her father gave to Sam, then walks back over to Barney, who had just picked up Sam from the crib and was holding him, more like bouncing him up and down in his arms. Oh, that's cute. Barney says, liking the gift her father genuinely gave to their son. Sam really loves the little guy. She says, handing the bear to Sam, who takes it immediately. Anyway, I found out a few things from him that kind of surprised me. Robin says. They had begun to walk out of Sam's room as she talked. Barney puts Sam down on a mat on the floor by the dining table, then they sit on the couch. He was not ready for what's about to go down in the next few minutes. He really didn't want to have this conversation and hoped this would never get brought up to Robin, but it is, and now he has to come clean. So, that was unexpected, huh? Your father's visit? Barney says as they sit on the couch. Yeah, it was. But what surprised me is that he told me he was seeing someone. In fact, he's been seeing her for a year now and they're engaged. Surprising, huh? She says. They sit down on the couch and continue their conversation. Yeah, it's surprising. So, what else did you learn when your father was here? Barney asks, wanting to know what other things she had learned when her father was here, bracing himself for her answer. He told me that you called him twice. In fact, isn't that crazy? She's still shocked that she was told this from her father and not Barney, which is odd cause they told each other everything now and don't keep things from each other, because that's how the communication gets messed up between them and it usually leads to fights which neither wanted to have, especially when things have been going really great for them. He told you that? He asks, cursing to himself. He was hoping to not have this conversation with her. After all they went through the last few months, he was trying to keep this from her to protect her, but now he's caught and has to tell her the truth about those calls and what he's learned about Robin Sr. through those phone calls. Apparently, you called him before and after Sam was born and had it out with him over not being there in my life like he should be all these years. He said, after Sam was born, that you yelled at him for a few minutes telling him that he has a grandson and should be there for me in this time. He also said that you have known where he's been and where he lives, including his phone number, for months now. Weird, huh? As she talks, Barney knows he needs to come clean now or they will get into a fight he really doesn't want to have. Okay. Alright, yes, I called him twice, both before and after Sam's birth, that is true, and I have known his whereabouts for a while now, but I was trying to protect you. You were going through so much stress and I didn't want you to get stressed out more with what your father had been up to all these months. When I contacted him that first time, it was to confront him with all the bad things his company was dealing. I found his phone number and address from my contacts through work. My company knows about his company and has been working with his company since he became CEO. I had been in contact with the company but hadn't met your dad in person. I just talked to him once over the phone at my office and your pregnancy and our engagement came up. He waved that information off like it was nothing and told me how much of a disappointment you are. I wasn't going to get mad at him over the phone, so I kept quiet on how rude he was being towards you. But then I called him once again after Sam was born. I told him what happened with the birth, that you had slipped into a coma and you, Sam, or both of you could have died due to that birth. He was careless again, saying a little blood is nothing and you're a Sherbatsky, so you should shape up and stop giving up your career for a baby. I had it after that. I yelled at him for the way he treated you, then hung up. But, I only kept this news from you because I didn't want you to get hurt and more stressed over his attitude and dirty dealings at his company. As she was listening, she couldn't believe what she's learning about her father. Apparently, he had known about her pregnancy and birth, and Barney knew all about where he's been, what's he doing in New York and with his company. She's a little taken aback by this information. It was a little much for her to take. But, I wasn't keeping this from you to keep your father away from you or from you talking to him. I kept this from you because I didn't want it to stress you out more, especially when you were close to giving birth and did go into labor right after I had that conversation with your father. Truthfully, this was all too much for her to take. On one hand, she thinks it nice, sweet even of Barney to be protective of her, knowing how much she went through with her pregnancy. But, on the other hand, she's a little pissed off that he kept this from her for over 2 months, and that gets her mad. How dare you? How could you keep this from me all this time? We even talked about my father a week ago and you told me to not worry about him, which I then asked my mother about my father. Again, she had no idea about what's going on in my father's life. I had wanted to forget and move on. I decided to do just that after my mom left the other day. But, now I know you've known that he's been here, in the city, and about his job. You knew I had wrestled with trying to contact him for weeks, and this is something I thought we talked about. Being honest with each other about anything and everything, and you knew how important this was to me. She gets up. She didn't want to be mad at him because he was just being protective of her. But, he's kept this news from her this whole time, and that she's not sure if she could forgive Barney for keeping this important information from her. She leaves and goes to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Damn. Barney thought this time, saying it out loud instead of thinking it. He knew this would happen if this information came out. She would be furious to learn that he's known about her father for months and didn't tell her. There were also things going on with her dad that she has no idea about, and it would devastate her. He wanted to tell her more, but she got mad and left the room without him getting anything more out from this news. He sits and puts his hands over his forehead, thinking it's best to let her calm down. He decides to let Robin calm down before he goes to the room to talk to her. He knows that she will be mad for a while, how long he's not sure, so he lets her be by herself. Instead, he gets up and goes to pick up Sam from the mat, bringing him over to the couch and turning on the TV. He plays with him for a while, giving him his bottle that was on the coffee table in front of him. Your mommy will calm down, she's just emotional over your grandfather coming by and the news that I've known for months about where he's been. He says in a low tone as he feeds Sam and watches TV on a low volume. It was 5 p.m. when Barney starts to get hungry, so he decides to call in an order from the pizzeria around the corner. Robin, I know you're not talking to me at the moment, but I'm ordering from the pizza place around the corner. I will order you your usual, you can eat whenever you like. He says through the bedroom door. Robin had been laying on the bed for an hour. The tears had subsided a while ago, but she was still mad at Barney for keeping this information from her. She knew he was in his right to keep this information from her. After everything that had gone on with her pregnancy and the birth, it was only logical for him to keep it from her, since it would have likely upset her or frustrated her, which is something he didn't want to do. So, keeping this information from her was the only way to not stress her out, which would have complicated things with her pregnancy. She gets why he did what he did, but it still upsets her that he kept such important information from her when he knew all along that she had been wanting to talk to him. As she sits on the bed and thinks, she hears Barney through the door telling her that he's ordering food for the evening. She was getting hungry too, so it was good, he thought, to order something instead of cooking while she was still mad at him. She sits up on the bed. She wanted to tell Barney that her father wants to come to their wedding and had invited his fiancée and wants to come by again for dinner, but she got so mad that she ran out of the room. She realizes that getting mad at Barney wasn't really about being mad at him. It was more of the fact that her father never cared enough about her life to stop by without both him and her mom kicking him in the ass to give her his support and be the father he should be. What really upsets her is her father could have cared enough about her life to support her and call her to tell her that he's living in New York now and is seeing someone. That makes her furious, which is why Barney did what he did. I'm sorry about running out like that. I got caught up in being angry at the news you knew about my father for months and not telling me. It's the fact that he never cared to even tell me about his life or be involved with my life until you yelled at him. What angers me is that he never cared enough to let me into his life. He never knew until recently that I was even pregnant, so I'm not angry or upset because you kept this from me this whole time. I'm angry with my dad for not caring about my life enough to come see me or call me until you and my mother told him off. So, sorry for getting so mad when I wasn't mad at what you did, it was more towards my father for being heartless and not the father he should be towards me. Barney had been setting up for the food he ordered when Robin came in the room, causing him to pause the TV when she started talking. So, forgive me for running out like that, she says, sitting down next to him. I don't have to forgive you for anything. I got why you got mad. I'm just glad you're not mad at me. I wasn't trying to keep this from you. I've wanted to tell you sooner, but after everything with Sam and our mothers coming, I didn't know how to bring it up because I knew it would upset you. That's why I didn't tell you, he says. There's nothing to forgive. She had every right to get mad. It's great that she wasn't really mad at him. She was mad at her father, and that's perfectly understandable. I get it now though. He's always been like that, so him stopping by unannounced triggered my emotions and I got overly emotional about his visit, so I'm sorry for being mad like that. He doesn't say anything more, just leans in to kiss her, but the kiss doesn't last long because there was a knock at the door, which is the food Barney ordered. He gets up and gets the food, then they eat together, mostly in silence but with mild conversation. So, my father wants to come to the wedding and even wants to bring his fiancée. Robin had wanted to tell him this since he came home, but she got suddenly mad and didn't get to. Oh, that's cool, Barney says as he takes out the food from the bag. He also said that he wants to come to dinner sometime. I told him I would have to talk to you about it. Okay, sure, we can invite him over, it's not a big deal. So, we actually have a date for the wedding. Can you believe it? We're getting married in 11 months. They had set a date 2 days ago but still don't have a place to have the wedding even though they have the location. I can't. I also can't wait to make you my wife and us official. They smile at each other and in that moment it all sinks in. They are getting married on the 8th of June, but still have a way to go for planning the rest of their wedding. Robin's really excited to finally marry Barney, but they still have a lot to plan with this wedding, and a trip to the Hamptons in a few weeks will help them find the right place to get married, but they do know that they want to get married on a beach at sunset and the date. That's all that is planned so far, but they are both excited and ready to make it official after all this time and everything that has happened in the last year. They're ready, and they can't wait. Barney and Robin wanted their wedding to be perfect, but also have a little bit that represented them as a couple. So, on the first weekend in September they took a trip to the Hamptons to search out locations for their wedding. They wanted the perfect and most romantic spot to get married at and to go with the beach house they had picked out 2 weeks earlier. They wanted their wedding location to be close to the beach house but hadn't found anything in their search online. So, they set out to find the perfect spot for their nuptials, hoping to find a nice place for their wedding next year. They first thought about having a beach wedding. The thought of a beach wedding had been something they both imagined for their wedding. It would not only represent their relationship but also the turning point in their relationship, the time they first kissed when they watched her sandcastles in the sand video together. They also wanted to include something that represents them as a family, which would also include their son, who they wanted to be in the ceremony. Even though Sam would be almost a year old when they marry, they wanted him to be a part of his parents' big day, and for them this day is huge. The most anticipated, awaited, important day of their lives. Their wedding, it had to be something that would be remembered for the rest of their lives, so that's what they had planned and wanted for their big day. This is something they had been really excited about and ready for a long time. It had to be perfect and memorable. They had planned this for a while now but hadn't had the time to search for locations, so before Robin gave birth, Barney searched out locations for the wedding ceremony but couldn't find anything that seemed like some place they would get married at. But, with everything that happened with the birth of their son and everything after it, it was not a good time to plan more of the wedding. But Barney surprised her a week later after they returned home from the hospital with a road trip to the Hamptons in search of a location. This was his gift to her for all the stuff she's been through, from the drama within the gang to their parents to the birth of their son. So, he thought it would be a good idea to do this trip since they had already started planning the wedding. So, there was one location that I thought we'd both like, but it doesn't really show you much on the online ad or the pictures, so I thought we'd start with this location first. Barney say, even though he hadn't seen any places he liked that Robin would like and approve of. He did see this beach in Farhampton that looked really nice, really beautiful for their idea of a beach wedding, so this location seemed like a good place to start this trip off from. That sounds good. I know you showed me the ad, but there wasn't anything that stood out to me, so maybe it isn't as bad as it looks in the ad. She hoped that this place they are going to first is the perfect spot to get married in, but she still has some doubts about it since the ad doesn't really give away anything much about the beach or what's around it. Yeah, but the location is only a few feet away from the house I already put a down payment on to rent for the reception, so I'm hoping it's better than the ad seems to be. As they drove with Sam in tow, they didn't want to leave him alone or get a sitter even though they could have. They wanted to take Sam with them. They had paid for a hotel room near this location because they were going to stay for the weekend. It is their first family outing since Sam was born and hopefully the place they will get married at, so they wanted their son to be there with them for this mini vacation. They also wanted him to see the beach for the first time even though it was fall now and it wasn't as hot it was a month ago. They got to the hotel an hour later. The drive took 2 hours, but they made it in time to check in at the hotel, get settled and then head off to check out the beach that was close by. When they arrived they immediately admired and liked the outside of the hotel and thought this could be some place where family can stay if they decide to invite more than just some friends and family. Wow, this hotel looks really nice, Robin says, holding Sam in her arms after they all got out of the car in front of the hotel. It does. I instantly liked it when I saw it online, but the pictures doesn't give this place justice. This would be a great place for our friends and family to stay at on that weekend, Barney says, putting some of their luggage into a wheel cart for it to go to the room after they check in at the front desk. It is. If we decide to invite more people, then sure, this would be a great place for them to stay. But we only planned to stay a day, so I'm not sure what will happen. We'll have to see what this trip brings. Truthfully, Robin really wanted a small wedding at the beach, but the more they plan the more she thinks things will change. They head inside to check in, then headed to their room on the second floor. After going in the room, Barney takes their luggage and placed it in the corner of the room, as Robin goes to the bathroom to change Sam's diaper. As they settled in for the rest of the afternoon, they decide to go downstairs to eat something because they hadn't eaten since before they left this morning, so they were both hungry. So, what do you think? I really love the room and the hotel is really nice too, Barney asks as they sit and eat the nice spread the hotel puts out for their guests. I love the room, it's pretty big for not being a honeymoon suite. True, he thought. The room is pretty large for a regular room, which could be good for their wedding guests. Yes, I had asked when I booked the room what the honeymoon suite looks like. The manager says that we can take a look at that too before we leave. Wow, he's still full of surprises because she had no idea he talked to the manager to have them see the honeymoon suite. He really has thought of everything for this trip. So, that settles it. We'll book the hotel for our wedding and I'll also book the honeymoon suite even though we haven't seen it yet. The more they talked about it, the more they really liked the idea of booking this hotel for their wedding instead of the beach house. After lunch, Barney, Robin and Sam all go towards the beach, which was not that far away from the hotel. They had hoped that the beach would be the perfect place for their ceremony, so they set off to look at the beach, and by the end of the 2 hours walking around on the beach they finally found the perfect spot for the ceremony. After that they go check out the house just steps away from the beach to see it in person, then they head back to the hotel feeling completely happy with the choices they had made so far. Their wedding looks like the wedding of their dreams so far, and when they got back to the hotel they decided to ask about the honeymoon suite, hoping that it would be perfect for them since they already decided to use the hotel for their guests at the wedding. The room was even more bigger than the room they are currently staying in. Robin had instantly loved it the moment she stepped inside the room. Wow, this room is absolutely perfect. And it has a direct view of the beach, she says, cheerfully turning around after looking out of the door to the terrace of the room. It is. The manager told me that this is the biggest room they have and the only one with a direct view of the beach. I jumped at the opportunity to show it to you. I knew you would like the room. I was just not sure if you wanted to use this hotel though. It's really nice to have him kind of read her mind, because instead of using the house they already prepaid for, he thought it would be better if the hotel is a better place for their guests to stay, and he was right to think about the hotel to use for it. He's thrilled she likes this hotel and the suite. That's it, they are going to book the hotel right away in the morning for the date they already chose for their wedding. Well, I think this is the perfect place to use for our wedding. And, we'll just use the house for the reception as planned already since we already paid for it. He walks up to her and they embrace, he places his arms around her waist and she places her arms around his neck. So, I think we just planned our wedding. He says with a bright smile. He's 100% ready to marry her and they are 100% done with planning, so the only thing they needed to do was their guest list, which they will do once they get back home during the next week. I can't wait to marry you, Barney Scherbatsky. It's a more recent thing, but it feels right. The use of Scherbatsky is something they just started using, but Barney loves the idea of taking her last name because it's something that represents them as a couple and even friends. Scherbatsky is his nickname for her, so she's glad to share a part of herself with him, like he's sharing his life with her. I can't either. Mrs. Stinson. It's a great feeling to know that they are going to be getting married in 10 months, but also knowing that they already feel like they are already married. Hey, Sam, it's almost official, we're going to get married in 10 months. I cannot wait to be married to your awesome father. Robin says, picking up Sam, who had started crying a couple of minutes ago, bouncing him lightly hoping to stop his cries. He just continued, but then she started to hum to him Sandcastles in the Sand, and a few minutes later he stopped. This song seems to be the song to get Sam to stop crying, and it works all the time. In the last 2 months, Sam had been calling out for attention more, and the quiet days and nights turned into days and nights of not sleeping and staying up most of the night with him. This song instantly works on him. They had found this out one night, early one morning, when they woke up to his wailing through the baby phone. Robin had gotten up on this night to go see what Sam needed. She picked him up gently and then sat with him in the rocking chair. Nothing had worked at first, but then she starts to sing Sandcastles to him, and in minutes he was calm and quiet again. So, when Sam starts to cry out for them, one of them sings this song to him, and it works usually all the time. And I can't wait to make this incredible woman my wife. They both smile at their son, and luckily his cries die down and they sit together on the bed quietly for a few moments. So, tomorrow I will talk to the manager about booking the hotel for our wedding. Now that the planning is official and over, I think we can rest easy for the next 10 months. They had placed Sam into the travel playpen and then started to get ready for bed after Sam went to bed himself. The next morning, Barney went to talk to the manager of the hotel to see if they can book the rooms for their wedding guests. He hoped that the manager allows them to use most of the rooms, depending on the amount of guests they have, which they have to talk about when they go back home the next morning. Both him and Robin wanted to use it, so that's what they want and hoped for, because then the wedding would be completed minus the guest list. Hi, I know this might not be a good time, but I wanted to talk to you about something. Barney says, walking into the manager's office. They had previously talked on the phone but hadn't met in person. Barney hoped that he will be nice enough to help him and Robin out by letting them use the hotel for their wedding. Yes, sure, I'm free now, come on in. The manager says. Barney then sits in front of him in a chair to start the conversation. He hoped to make this short so he can get back to the room and Robin, who was currently feeding Sam in their room. Okay, so my fiancée and I have been talking and also planning our wedding. We have planned almost all of it, but we wanted to know if we can possibly use your hotel for our guests. He really hoped that he, as nice as he seemed to be over the phone, he wanted him to be nice about them asking this important question. Oh, well. When are you going to be getting married? Have you picked a date? The manager, Michael, wanted to know. He seemed to be nice so far, so Barney hoped this would be a quick and easy conversation. Yeah, the 8th of June next year, but we'll get married on the 9th. We don't know how big the guest list will be yet, but we thought about it and we hoped that we could book your hotel for the weekend, then give you the number of guests we'll have. Again, they both really wanted to use this hotel. He hoped Michael would allow that even without knowing how many will attend. Oh, okay then. I'll have to check and see if the hotel will be free of booking that weekend. But you can book the hotel. Will you get back to me as soon as possible so I know how many guests that will attend your wedding? Michael asks. He was alright with Barney booking the hotel, but because he doesn't know the amount of people who would be attending the wedding, he could not book the hotel until he knows the amount of people, so he tells him just this. No, we aren't sure yet how many will attend yet, but we're working on the list. Barney knows that this will probably not happen until he and Robin make the guest list, but he really hoped it wouldn't come to this. They both hoped they could book the hotel today. Okay, well, I have to get back to you on that maybe sometime by the end of this week. Barney says, disappointed that the manager didn't allow him to book the rooms now but is still allowing them to use the rooms. He'll need to give him the amount of guests before it gets too late to book the rooms for that weekend. Alright, please do. I will keep that date open until the end of the week. I can't promise anything after that though. This hotel is very popular with weddings. Well, the hotel is really nice, so of course they would have weddings here. Barney thanks Michael after that, then leaves to go find Robin to let her know what happened with the manager. Hey, Robin, I'm back. He announces as he enters their room. Hey, so what happened? She asks, wanting to know what happened with the manager. She hoped it went well. She really does want to use this hotel. It went okay. Michael said that we can use the hotel, but with the amount of weddings they have in this hotel, he said that he needs to know how many guests we'll invite. So, once we get back home we have to make the list because he wants to know by the end of the week. She's a little disappointed that they couldn't book the hotel right now, but gets why they need to keep every date open. This is a very popular wedding location and hotel, so they get weddings a lot. But still she hoped that they would end this trip on a good note. Oh. Well, I guess that makes sense. This is a popular wedding hotel. I guess I had my hopes up too high. So, he said he needs a list before the end of this week. She asks, this could be a good sign. 1, because they will have to finish up their guest list, and 2, because they will then book the hotel for their wedding, so maybe this whole needs to see a guest list thing is what they need to speed along with their wedding guest list. I'm sorry, I was hoping we could still book it, but we'll just have to make the list and tell him how many rooms we need. The guest list is halfway finished. We just need to figure out who'll come and the exact number, plus add some family members from both of our sides of the family. When they get back home they will need to go over this, but right now they just want to enjoy their last day at the hotel, so that's what they do for the rest of the day. The next day, they go back home having the guest list already jotted down on the piece of paper. The hard part though is the exact number of guests that will go to the wedding. Since they hadn't yet sent out invitations, they don't know that number, but think they know the amount of people who will attend without knowing if they will show up. So, when they get back home they start to make out their invitations. I'm not sure how many people will come. It's hard to know the exact number because we don't know who will come. Robin says, it was the following day when they both sit down to go over their guest list for the wedding, trying to figure out who will come without even sending out the invitations. Well, we have so far our immediate friends and family. So, Lily, Marshall, Ted, my mother, brother, my father, my stepsister and brother, your father and his fiancée. Do you think your mom will fly back to New York to come? Barney says, thinking aloud, wondering who they need to add to the list they already have. I'll have to call her to find out. When she was here she said she wanted to come and even invite her boyfriend, so I don't know yet. I do want to invite my other family members, my aunts, uncles, cousins, grandma and grandfather. And some other distant family members. Man, this wedding is becoming big, bigger than they originally wanted it to be. And I want to invite my grandma, aunt, uncle, people from work. Wow, this list and wedding is getting much more larger than we initially intended it to be. He says, shocked by the list growing more and more than they had wanted it to be. Okay, so that is about 30 people. Maybe 40. Who else do we invite? They honestly don't know that answer without contacting people they hadn't thought about in years. Maybe this is more hard than they thought. Since the ceremony is at the beach, we'll have that be small, then have more people at the reception since it's at the house. So, the ceremony will be small and the reception will be slightly bigger. He's right, she thinks they only want a small intimate ceremony at the beach, so that's what they are going to have. The reception can have many people attending, maybe arriving on the day of the wedding, so they don't have to use hotel rooms for those people. Maybe they can give a number to the manager without knowing the exact number of guests coming yet. Alright. How about this? We also have Sam marrying us, so he's coming too. What if we give Michael a number but not the correct amount, since we don't know who's coming yet? We'll give him 60 people, which will include everyone who will or will not be staying in the hotel. That's a really good idea. They have a list of 30 so far but don't know who else would attend, so that's a good number to use to book the rooms. Not a bad idea. We'll do that then. Wow, they really have no idea how many people would go to the wedding. They won't know that until they send the invitations and get responses from them. Great, it's settled then. I will call Michael tomorrow and let him know so we can book the rooms. Barney says he's glad they agreed on this because they really don't know about the exact number yet, so giving them this total is the only way to book the rooms even this early. They haven't yet sent the invites out yet. I should go check on Sam then call my mother. She hates flying, but I hope she can push through it to come. Robin knows her mother well enough to know that even the trip by train a couple of months ago, she's still not fond of flying, but she hoped that since it's her wedding that she would come to support her. Okay, he says. She heads off to Sam's room after giving him a quick kiss. They finally finished planning and now they can move forward. Thursday, Robin is returning to work for the first time since having Sam, and it was a good thing they went on that trip this weekend. It really helped her be at ease since having Sam and to forget and relax a little before going back to work. She had wanted to take the 6 months, but after getting cleared from her doctor, she decided it was time to go back to work. So, Barney is now taking the time off he always wanted to take but never did, to stay home and watch Sam. He's taking the rest of the year off to be a stay-at-home dad while Robin goes back to work. They had discussed this after she got the clear to work again from her doctor the week before. After a short argument about it, they both decided it was a good time for her to return to work. An hour later, Robin comes back to the living room after talking to her mother, but the look on her face was not a happy one, so he knew right away that the phone call with her mother didn't go as she hoped. I'm guessing your conversation didn't go as you thought it would go. All Robin does is walks over to him where he's sitting on the couch crying. He pulls her into him, hugging her, letting her emotions out. "Oh, Robin, what happened?" he asks, as she sobbed into his shoulder. She said it would be too much to go all that way, even if the wedding isn't until next year. She said the only reason she came to see me was because we paid for her train ride. I don't get her. After our conversation when she was here we seemed to be on the same page, but it seems like she isn't anymore. All he does is rubs her back soothingly, then says in a whisper, "It's okay, I know I'm supposed to like your mother, but this just makes me angry. I mean, not supporting your own daughter at her wedding, that's just not right." She breaks from their hug to look at him with a still tear-stained face. "I don't know why she's like that. How can she not come? How can she be so cold and selfish?" Barney shakes his head sadly. He doesn't know why her mother is like that, but he guesses it's just a fear she has. Everybody has a fear, and a lot of people have a fear of flying. It's a common thing. He still doesn't get why she doesn't come to their wedding though, since she did come when Sam was born. I guess it's because she's scared. Everyone gets scared. It's not uncommon, but it sounds like she was mean about her saying no. She really said she only came because we paid for her travel. That's rude. I thought I was liking your mother, but now I don't know what to say. It's just plain rude. He thinks that her mother isn't just scared about flying, it's the fact that she doesn't care, and that's upsetting to him. How can any parent be that mean? She just seemed really off in our conversation. It wasn't the woman I talked to a few weeks ago. It seems like she was a totally different person. She dabs her wet cheeks with a tissue after she calmed her tears. She's still mad and a little sad about the fact that her mother does not want to go to her wedding. I don't know what to say to that. Let's hope she comes around, maybe she will change her mind. She doesn't respond to that, she just shrugs and says, "Maybe. We'll see." She has never changed a day in her life, and clearly she didn't after we finally talked after all these years. They really have no idea what to say next, so they don't. They sit in silence before turning on the TV. There are other things to worry about, so they wipe this current situation off their minds, at least for now. Robin starts work again and Barney stays home with Sam on that Thursday. Barney calls Michael, the manager of the Farhampton Hotel, to book the rooms, and they continue to discuss the guest list and make the invitations during the week. They finally do finish those invitations and send them out 2 weeks later. They marked them with the date of the weekend of their wedding. The 8th of June, 2012 at the Farhampton Inn, with the ceremony taking place at the beach and the reception being held at the beach house they chose for it. They could have had the reception at the hotel, which they also do for weddings, but since they prepaid for it and had saw it in person, they decided to keep the house as their reception place instead of having it at the hotel. By the end of October, Robin had gotten promoted to head anchor and was an up-and-coming success at both the end station she works at and around the local news stations. And Barney is really proud of her. She's come so far since they met. The end.